Welcome to another Madera South Library YouTube tutorial video. I'm the teacher librarian here at Madera South, Jordan Maddox. Today we're continuing our Grammar 101 series by looking at active and passive voice, two of the most common voices used in writing and two you should know about. Let's get started. All right, so today we're going to be looking at active versus passive voice, and honestly, I feel like this is one of the most helpful things that you can learn to improve your writing. So let's look at what the difference is. So voice just means how you're writing or describing what's going on in a sentence. So active voice. Active voice is when the subject is performing the action, okay? So that sounds a little weird. So the subject is performing the action. Let's look at some examples. The examples will make it clear. So here's some examples. The dog chewed on the bone, okay? So the dog chewed on the bone. The dog is performing the action. The subject right here is connected to the verb chewed, and they're both interconnected. Let's look at another one. The man laughed at the joke. The subject, the man, is connected to the laughing. The subject is doing the laughing. The man is laughing. You might be thinking to yourself, this just sounds like regular old sentences. It sounds like how we speak. But let's look at passive voice to contrast with these two so you can kind of see how they can be changed based on the voice. So the difference between passive voice is the action is performed on the subject of the sentence. Okay, so let's rewrite these first two sentences using the passive voice. Okay, so if I were to rewrite the dog chewed on the bone, I would say the bone was chewed on by the dog. Okay, so essentially the content here, the dog chewed on the bone and the bone was chewed on the dog, are virtually the same. There's the same meaning here, but instead the emphasis is on the bone. In this case, in this sentence, the bone is the subject of the sentence, and in this case, the dog is the subject of the sentence. So there's a couple clues that you'll know that something is in the passive voice. One of these clues is the existence of these words like was, or were, or is. These are very common clues that you're having the passive voice. And then when you see the preposition by, when something's done by someone, that's a clue that you're in the passive voice. So let's change the second sentence. The man laughed at the joke. The joke was laughed at by the man. Okay? So you can see the man is the subject of this sentence here, and the man is the one doing the laughing. The subject down here is the joke. And then the person doing the action is at the end of the sentence. So the person that's doing the action comes at the end of the sentence in the passive voice. The person or thing doing the action comes at the beginning of the sentence with an active voice. Okay, let's do one more example. She wrote a long love letter. I like alliterations. Alliteration is when you have the same consonant at the beginning of successive words. She wrote a long, there actually should be a comma here, long love letter. Okay, so this is, she is the subject here, and this person, the she, is writing. So she and write are connected. The subject is connected to this verb right here, and that's the person doing the action. So if we were to rewrite it in the passive voice, we would say, the long love letter was written by, and when we move she to the end of the sentence, it's her. Okay? So the difference here is that the person doing the action was moved to the end of the sentence, and now the subject of this sentence is in fact the long love letter, not she. Okay? So there's a lot of reasons why you might use passive voice versus active voice. Generally, what I encourage students to do when they're beginning writers is to focus more on the active voice. You can see that the active voice here is shorter. Sentences are shorter. They're crisper. They're cleaner. The passive voice is a little confusing. Sometimes you might use the passive voice when you were saying something happened that you didn't like. So for example, if you broke something at home, you can say the vase was broken by me. So you add the little by me at the end there. So there's lots of different reasons to use active and passive voice. But what's most important for now, before we talk about style and how maybe you should write as you're learning to write, the key here is to be able to distinguish, tell the difference between active and passive voice, and be able to switch sentences back and forth. Because with that understanding, you can see how the sentence is being written, what voice it is, and then later on be able to go back and forth between these two voices as you build your skills as a writer. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully you understand the difference between active and passive voice and can distinguish and change sentences back and forth between the two voices. We'll see you in the next video.